since I have to add IDs and stuff, there's now going to be 3 processing bits that I need to do. One is to run the readability. Another is to purify, and then a third is to add the audio cursor information. So I think what I want to do is I want to break this up, this single file, which is I've been using as a script. I'd like to break it up into a library that I can test and develop more easily. Now that I know it's in a form that I think is reasonable. And I'm not quite sure how I want to do that, but I do. Since I don't know JavaScript, I will ask the AIs for help. And this is a really simple task, but I just don't know the syntax enough and I don't want to flail around. So I'll say rewrite this code so that, what are the methods called? Readability and DOM purify sanitize. Okay, so that it has the structure. So it has the structure of a list of transformations that can be applied in a chain. One transformation is readability, what, parse and maybe just parse. I'll say each transformation in the chain is stateless and takes in a DOM and outputs the transformed DOM. Another transformation is DOM purify sanitize. This isn't bad. I'm not used to the keyboard shortcuts yet. That's why I sometimes show the wrong window. Okay, so we'll call this maybe transformations.js. I don't know, man. What's a good name? Okay, so I'll just assume this runs, which I think it actually won't, but we'll just assume for now that this is all valid code. And I want to I don't remember how to get equally spaced columns, but we'll ignore that detail for now. Okay, so then I want to have another file that is essentially the main function, the file that's just going to read in the URL, ideally from disk is where it's going to come from, and then apply the transformations. So this code I can rip out. that says the argument parsing. We're going to read the file from the HTML file path, which comes from somewhere. I think it comes from the argument, right? Yeah, so we're going to pass it in as an argument. We need to require FS, and we don't need to do it on the first buffer on the left, the transformation library. We do need to initialize DOM purify. We do need these require statements in the transformation library. Readability parse is oh yeah, what was I doing before? So the readability thing really returns this JSON structure that has details about the metadata. And do I want to carry that around? It probably does make sense to keep track of that. Where I want to keep track of that, I'm not sure. But we shouldn't, I don't want to lose it quite yet, I guess, because I might forget about it. And then it would take me it would take me more time to rediscover it than it will take me to rip it out later if I don't need it. Okay, so in the middle buffer here, we're getting a dirty on line 21, or rather line 28. We're getting a dirty output from calling readability parse, and then we call DOM purify .sanitize on line 30 on the dirty.content. Whereas here we're dropping the content and only returning the DOM. So what else do how about this? How about, why is Emacs so small? Okay, so I'll say, now that I think about it, readability parse returns some useful metadata. Change the transformations API so that apply transformations returns. So this is returning just the inner HTML, which I think what I want, I guess. So it'll return both and the output of readability parse. And I'll say to do this, have other transformations in the chain, take both arguments, take both a DOM argument and a readability JSON output argument, and they'll just ignore the second argument if they don't need it. Okay, again, we're just going to assume that this is valid, even though I know in practice ChatGPT generally doesn't return valid code. I'll also copy this read file over just in case it's slightly different from the original one. All right, and now I want another transformation. I want a transformation that adds the audio cursor stuff, and I don't entirely remember how we did that, but I think it is mainly just you know what we do break up big paragraphs. And I guess I don't really want to do that in JavaScript. But maybe I will. I do want to do it on the server. It would be more enjoyable to write and maintain it in Haskell, but that would mean another like service or function handoff, and I don't really think that's justified. What is going on with Emacs? Look, I can't see anything on this mini buffer. What are you doing to me, Emacs? Maybe resetting it will make it behave. I don't want this hello one. I want the transformations one. And I want the main. I guess main will go in the middle now. Did I not save main? Oh, it's there. And I want the Dart code that consumes the that consumes the audio cursor information. All right. Well, I don't have syntax highlighting in the JavaScript strings, but that's no matter. In fact, this may not even have the IDs itself. I think those are all handled now in Dart and have always been handled in Dart. And I don't really remember where I put that stuff. We have this text splitter thing, which is, I think, will be useful to us. It's not in JavaScript. I'm guessing it's maybe the audio player handler. Okay. Lector speak dash, and then I think they're just all numerical. Okay. And I'm going to start a new chat with ChatGPT just because I don't really trust it to not get confused. So in this code, add a new transformation that at this point, I haven't removed all of the I haven't removed everything that's unwanted. I think there can be HTML elements that are left alone by Mozilla's reader view that I don't want in my Read It Later app. So there's at least one step where I more aggressively delete things like scripts, which I think sometimes the reader view leaves. And I leave just the HTML that I want to be displayed and spoken. Nevertheless, I think that I think the step where I more aggressively remove stuff might have to take place before Mozilla's readability service has a chance to run. And the reason for that is that the NIH website use case where readability on the raw input data makes the wrong decision about what should be preserved, because I think ultimately because of data HTML tags that don't have an actual bearing on the interesting text content. So if we handle that before handing it to the readability service, that gives us a chance to develop it in Haskell after the article is downloaded as a first pass cleaning that doesn't have to be as smart as the readability logic. That may be the wrong decision, because that doing that may alter the course of history and cause the readability heuristics to think that things that are not interesting are now more interesting after I've scrubbed some of the extraneous stuff. So we'll have to figure that out experimentally. However, I think that's the right thing to try first. And it's going to be done. It's going to have to be done to some extent, at least, site by site, so that there are quirks of sites that are known, and they get written down, and a policy gets written per site. You don't want everything to work that way, but I think that some of that is inevitable in this endeavor. Sites that people want to read that are kind of developed in an odd way, or are sufficiently old that they have a bunch of cruft that newer sites don't have, etc. So I think that what I want out of this is I'll just assume that all of the remaining text elements I want to enumerate. So I'll say in this code, add a new transformation that walks over each text element, each HTML element that contains textual data, and changes its ID to lector speak dash and I, where I is a counter that starts, I think, at 0, and is incremented for every HTML element it alters. And then at the end, what I want to do is keep track of the total number of paragraphs and write it as metadata, which I think is maybe in the JavaScript code. Lector length, and then I'll say finally add a metadata tag to the document with key, lecture length, and value equal to the largest I used by lecture speak -I. All right, and I'll paste the code. This should be trivial code to write. It's just that I don't know JavaScript very well, and it doesn't have like a good type system, so I don't want to make like little hard to find bugs that I don't realize until later when I run the file under a bunch of different conditions. I think ChatGPT, the code is simple enough, and it's JavaScript, so I think it should have been trained on lots of simple tasks like this. Okay, and this is the main difference here. Let's grab it. And it's going to query all star. Is that good? I don't know. And then for each element, if the text content trim is not the empty string, we'll assign the ID. That I guess seems reasonable. And then at the end of the loop, we'll set the... no, this is not right. Is that right? Oh, yeah, that is right. Okay. This is a single meta tag, and it has name and content. All right, great. And so that's good. I don't want it to return lecture length. And it should take readability metadata as an argument. But we might as well add it to, I guess we might as well add lecture length to the readability metadata. I'm not sure how you do an in-place JSON update. I assume it looks more or less just like indexing into an array. But I don't know, I could just do it before the return statement. And we'll call it here. Down here, the JS DOM URL should come from, I guess should be an argument. I don't know if, I guess I'll ask ChatGPT. I don't know if there's already a well-known structure that has both the HTML content and the URL. But I guess if there were, then JS DOM would take it as an argument, right? So I guess we just have some options here. No use getting super fancy. We'll just pass it in. I think I have main in the middle. I don't feel like I want main in the middle, but that's where it is. So I'll try it out. Okay, so we have this HTML file path, and we're reading it from the path, and that's how things are. And we could. So first of all, the path name will have the URL, except that the URL. So on the left here, on line 56, the thing I'm passing the JS DOM has the authority, or rather, has the protocol in the URL HTTPS, and I don't think that I'm saving that. I don't know if JS DOM needs that. And do I even want it? URL sets the value returned by window location, document URL, and document URI, and affects things like resolution of relative URLs within the document and the same origin restrictions and refer used when fetching sub-resources. It defaults to about blank. Maybe that's what I want. But I guess what I'm going to do is pass in. So I could pass in basically the existing URL is also where it lives on the file, because that's how I've named the files as I get them. If I want to make sure that they always read from file and never like accidentally fetch resources from the original URL, then it might make sense to somehow obscure the URL. I don't know if I want to do that, but I will pass it in. I'll pass it in without the. I'll just pass in wherever I read the file from. The HTML file path, as it's known. Okay, and so this says we're going to do these transforms, and they're mostly going to ignore the metadata. This will set the metadata, and that's good. This will just read the file from a path and run. And I think that's mainly it, except now I want to test this, and I want to be able to have HTML files, I guess, as strings or as maybe golden files on disk that I can make sure are in known good states. I don't need to go overboard on the testing, but I do want to have at least a minimal test suite set up so that I can incrementally improve it over time. And for that, I want to know more about JavaScript tests. So I don't really need a JavaScript like unit testing framework that's fancy, but I would like to have maybe something at least bare bones. I can always just call node in a script and exit with a non-zero status on test failure. I can see what what the rules Node.js people are doing. Although if I remember correctly, the path I went down is using an old, outdated rules Node.js. So whatever they're doing there is not necessarily indicative of what good practice would be. Where are we? 4.7.0. Lots of versions. I guess this seems to have seen some development. Okay, and do they have tests? That's what I want to know. Examples. Jest. Is Jest a testing system? I have a feeling it is. Jest test. Why does this fail almost all the time, but pass on local Mac? That I can't tell you, my man. I just can't tell you. Okay, so what they describe as a utility macro in jest.bazel, which makes a more ergonomic API for calling jest test rule. Does that mean that the jest test rule itself is that macro, or is the macro just simplifying? Now, wait a minute. Why is it finding no jest test strings in the code? Is it because it's only... I think it's only searching main. Find a particular file extension. Why wasn't my code found? Can I search within a... regular expression, save searches? How do I search a commit? A URL of the form. Oh, yeah. I thought this was telling me something more slightly interesting. So if I do this, what if I, in the search, enter a URL that has a, I don't know if I can. No, I can try source graph. I think it's just fetching a... All right, it's just doing what I will do, which is just fetching in the background. You know what, I have to have it on my disk anyway, right? Do I have a good shell? Let's just use Emacs. What? I don't believe you. I think I'm doing something wrong. So we have rules.json. Yeah, this might be it. It must be it. Okay, so this seems to be what I wanted. I don't feel like setting up, what's it called? The live grep for it. Although it would be cool if I could live grep through Bazel cache. Would it be cool? I don't know. But is this the same repo? This doesn't look like the repo. So I should see like Node.js packages, Bazel CI. So that's the binary for Node.js. That's that's my workspace. Those are run files because that's in Bazel bin. I feel like it should be here. I honestly don't really remember where they put rules, but I think maybe locate is the answer. So that leaves just cloning it. Which I'm not morally opposed to. And now we can oh, we need to check out the right branch. So what is it? Git tags, git tag, and then git checkout tag. Maybe now it's tags slash 0 point something or 4 point something, 4.7.0. And if I have tags singular, it's going to say no. Okay, just checking. So now we do a just test, and it seems to be here. There's this is a macro around the auto-generated just test rule. And we also have this packages, TypeScript, etc., a simple macro around just underscore test. And maybe here's the real one, the first one. And I'm going to read this code as if I was just doing a regular code reading because I'm a little bit curious. I will get these keyboard things right eventually. It kind of depends on how much development I've been doing on my laptop, which has a wildly different keyboard. Why? Wait, what? This Should be copy. You know what? I think I had forgotten about middle mouse click on Linux. Does that still work? Hey, look at that. Maybe you don't have to worry about the copy and pasting stuff. So this is issue 813. We're going to load jest Clyde. This is just a build file. And we're loading it from... Oh, I guess jest test must actually be the jest library people must implement a Bazel rule. Is that what I'm seeing? Delightful JavaScript testing. We have Babel, which is a JavaScript thing. Okay, so this looks like they support symlinking, which was requested by many Bazel users. But that doesn't tell me where this build rule came from. Index.bazel. So where that is defined should be in the workspace, but I have a feeling it's just pulled from NPM. Maybe I'll look at the thing in the examples directory. We have test.bazel. So we do load npm jest cli index.bazel jest. And we have this thing, underscore just test is equal to jest test. So it's auto-generated. I don't know how that works though. At any rate, we take the auto-generated rule and we define, I guess, a new rule called jest test, presumably the same name. It takes in name, sources, deps, jest config, and some keyword arguments. And the first thing we see is a string, but I don't think that's, I think that, well, hang on. Maybe the first string is like a documentation thing. There's no, there doesn't seem to be any code there. It's just a string literal that's hanging out on its own line. But we have some templated args. So somehow these are templated. I'm not sure how. And the args are no cache, no watchman. CI is presumably whether it's running on the CI system or not. Colors. That might be configurable colors. It might just be true or false whether you want colors in your test output. And then we're going to extend the templated args by config with root path being the set to the jest config. I don't know why why we need to extend. Why can't that just go directly in the source above it on the previous line in the list? I don't know. That might be just a matter of style. It might be something about the Skylark language. Then we're going to iterate over sources and extend the templated args with run tests by path with the root path and the source file. And then we'll set data to be the list. So just config is a single item. We are promoting it to a list with one element containing just that item, and then concatenating it with sources, depths, and a list containing just the string jestReporter.js. I guess jestReporter is needed in one of the subsequent rules. And then we call this single underscore just test, passing the name, the data, and the templated args. And that underscore just test has been renamed on line 3 here. It's the one that's auto-generated by this rule. And then we have this thing that says, make sure the update command runs with a working directory in the workspace so that any created snapshot files are in the sources, not in the run files. I don't know what a snapshot file is, but I guess we're creating some files. They want it to be in the sources, not in the run files. It seems like the place for them is in the run files. So I'm not sure why. But at any rate, we're going to call this write file thing. And we're going to change directory. Or rather, the name of the write file, I guess, operation is change directory. The output is chdir.js. And the content is, I guess, conceptually, we're CDing into the patch to the workspace, and we're doing that by calling process change dir process.env build workspace directory. So I guess this probably looks into the process.env, presumably looks into the environment variable, which environment variable the build workspace directory, and then we're calling change dir. We don't seem to import process. I guess process is something that is available at the top level in JavaScript. And then we're going to change directory into the subdir /package by calling process.changedir with the native, whatever native is, native.package name, if native.package name, else this. Again, I don't know what native is. And write file comes from skylib. And then this rule is used specifically to update snapshots via Bazel run. And then we have this jest rule, which I guess is different from jest test. And the name is set to blah update, where this is, I guess, presumably name is the name of the rule that you are, when you, in your build file, you have some jest test, and that jest test has a name. Can we see that syntax? Yeah, like here on line 12, I think the name is the name that the user supplies in their build file. And then data is equal to data plus that we now have to send this chdir.js file, which I don't know which directory we're in here. chdir.js tells us to change the directory. I think we're writing chdir.js to the run files. And that's where this gets executed, but I'm not sure. And then templated args is equal to the templated args we saw above, plus some things like update, snapshot, run in band, and some node options and the keyword arguments. Okay, so modulo not knowing either JavaScript or Starlark, that all seems straightforward to me. The one mystery I had was it's not clear to me how this jest test rule gets populated. I assume that logic is just part of the rules node.js magic. We can try searching here for generated. Generate. The internal directory, I think, is where it should have been. So on the right here, we have Bazel integration test, common, copy repository, coverage, generated file test, JS library, linker, node, npm install, npm tarballs, package, etc. Maybe JS library? I'm just searching for some strings I think might show up when you're writing the file that generates the code. I don't have a very good search mechanism right now. I'm just grepping through the internal directory. So we have this generated file test, blah, 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 test, test, test. Generate config JSON. I'm not sure. I'm not going to dig too much into it. First of all, this is outdated code. And I'm really just kind of curious about how they create a test rule that's auto-generated based on a repo that doesn't have support for Bazel. Because I eventually want to have that power myself to wield when I need to. It presumably has some way of reading some config that like an npm style build rule that it is able to convert to Bazel. And then the question is, what would that thing be called? Is it just part of the lock file? I don't know if that's the right place for it, but maybe it is. No, package.json is where it would go, right? So we have the jest mono repo. Is it really a mono repo if it's just one project? Scripts, test, yarn lint, and yarn jest. there's this scripts thing. I think scripts is probably part of package.json. I'm guessing it's reading ultimately from package.json. I don't know how people use jest. It seems like maybe jest walks the file tree to find all your tests. I have multiple files, multiple test files using jest. How do I run a single test from all the files without moving files around? You can use the T flag. So the way that jest test is supposed to work, you write a test for a hypothetical function that adds two numbers. So you have this module, you write this function, you do modules export. I don't know what that means. It seems probably some signal that the module is exporting that file. We see that in other languages. I guess it's part of either JavaScript or part of NPM. And then we create an underscore test file where we import the file using require. And then we have this test method name. We give it a string and we give it a function, a lambda function essentially. And then we add this. And presumably it just looks for things that are called underscore test. It doesn't seem to have been configured to look for anything in particular. Maybe it looks for things that, first of all, it doesn't seem that we've imported jest. The file will be discovered automatically if it is named in jest.config.json. It is recommended. Okay. All right. So maybe you do have to explicitly say in this file where your tests are. Although this getting started doesn't seem to have done that. Maybe ChatGPT knows. So how does jest know which files to test? It'll probably tell me to add them to the config. It looks for files matching certain things, like .test.js, etc. Okay. That's pretty obnoxious behavior, but I guess I don't have to worry about it. It's probably Basil will take care of making sure that everything is explicit by threading it through the, because I'll have to write a build file for it through the jest test rule. But this is all beside the point because I'm not sure that I even love jest with all my heart. Are there other tests that are just simpler? I mean, jest seems simple enough. Here's web testing. This is a bash script that calls exit 0. Karma web test suite. And then we have an SH test. And this has protractor web test suite. So it seems like they're always using some wrapper around a JavaScript testing framework to do the tests. What about internal? Do they use any testing stuff here for JavaScript? We have an external test, build.bazel. We have a Node.js test. And it's called test.js. And the entry point is test.js. And it's just going to try to find something and fail if it doesn't find something. Node.js is a convenient way to write a novel kind of test based on running what? Running your own test runner. For example, TS API Garden library has a way to assert the public API of a TypeScript program. Okay, I don't know. I guess I'll just use jest. Do people still use it? Cypress, Jasmine, Puppeteer, Selenium, Karma, Mocha, Jest. Jest seems to be good, at least in 2021. Okay. Seems like I should have this load statement, but for some reason I commented it out and it seems to still be working. Or maybe it stopped working and I just haven't run it from there in a while. Okay, so we need to import jest, which we're just going to copy the example here. They have this macro they want me to copy. I don't know, man. What if I just do Node.js test? I don't have all this crud around my repo. Maybe I'll just try importing the standard rule without the script around it. I guess it's worth a shot. So let's try that. I think I need to add it to whatever the requirements file is called. Probably package.json. I don't know what the the actual name of the packages. I assume bang npm is the npm thing. Just dom ts just type should be TypeScript support, I would think. Just cli. And I don't know how recent I should go here. I'll do, I guess, I'll try the most recent, and it may fail to resolve because my other dependencies are old. And I think JavaScript or JSON doesn't like a trailing slash there. And so this will be some just test. Probably needs a name. It needs maybe it might need an entry point. And I guess it probably needs the same thing in data. This file doesn't exist, so let's create it. Yeah, okay, so I can't find the Mozilla thing if I comment this out. Oh, no, wait, what? And it can't find GCC because I haven't installed it yet. This is a new install. So why don't I do that? And I'm going to take a break for a few minutes and I'll come back in a bit. Let's see if we can get a smoke test working just to verify that this apply transformation code is valid code. So for that, we need some sort of test file, test HTML file. I don't really know what it should contain. I guess let's just pick an arbitrary one. And call it something like test 0. And maybe we can have something like expected 0. I don't know how people do these things, but there's that. I guess let's check quickly what the Mozilla readability people themselves do. So they have test pages and they are in different folders. So 001 has expected metadata expected in source. That seems reasonable. I think source is a good name. I think 000 is reasonable, but I'll put them in the same directory. All right, and I'll call them input and expected output. All right. So I need to make Basil aware of them. How? I think some file group. I'm not positive I remember the syntax. File group, something, some glob. Maybe data equals something like a glob of all the test files. And I need to import file group, presumably. That seems mostly correct, except it's called sources. And I don't think I think it's unlikely I have the glob syntax correct. So glob takes a list. And then there's probably some stuff I have to load, right? One would think. Let's just try building it. I don't know if you can build a test, a file group. But we can at least try. Okay, so if I just fix that up a little bit, it works. And so I should be able to depend on it. I need a Node.js library, which I hope is a thing. So there's no Node.js library, but there is a binary, and maybe there's something like a JavaScript library. JS library. Okay, it seems to find that okay. What if I build everything? It seems to like that. I haven't started using JS library yet, so let's try that. We'll call it transformations. I forget whether I pluralized the file or not. I did. We have this weird data thing, but I expect that that's also how this rule works. No. Maybe it's sources. Or depths, rather. Okay, well, if there's a self edge, I think it's because I listed the function, the file as a dependency of itself. And now it says that the input file does not exist. I assume it means the transformations.js. And maybe it doesn't exist. It seems to. Now, is this a typo issue? No. So here's the exec root. The exec root on the left, I guess it's a symlink back to my directory. So why does it think it doesn't exist? I hope the answer is not I have to do more JavaScript specific stuff. Probably it is, because I guess it's going to link back to the... Well, I don't know. Oh, that's why. It's misnamed. That's why I couldn't find it before. There is a typo. Excellent. Now let's run some tests. I don't know what test is. I think test is a thing I tested before. A bunch of this stuff is from when I was trying to debug the readability algorithm. We'll just delete it. And we'll have mytest.js will be just an ordinary JSON file with no unit testing framework, although I suspect I will move to a unit testing framework sooner rather than later if I find it's too obnoxious to write like bare tests. In fact, let's look up how Jest handles test files. Maybe test data. I guess if this is worthy of a blog post, it might not be simple. So I'll say for the following code, write a JavaScript test without using a testing framework. It should read the HTML file OOO input, I think I called it .html, and OOO expected output from I'll just call it the foobar directory. The foobar directory. It should then run the apply the transformations to the content of input.html and check whether the processed output is the same as the content of the expected file. If the content is not the same, the script should exit with a non-zero status. And I'm already seeing that this is going to be obnoxious because getting the tests to run properly in parallel is going to be mildly annoying. I would have to keep track of like tests that fail. I'd have to do some bookkeeping and make sure to exit if one of them failed and print out some useful stuff. So all of that's a little bit more work that I want to do, especially in a language I don't know. Nope. What are you doing? How do I stop it? I'll say, no, you've misunderstood. You're calling the code I provided as a library. You shouldn't have to import anything. Or not anything, but those two things. Okay, it's misunderstood again. This looks much more promising. That's better, but I asked you to write code that applies each transformation, not applies all transformations via so does apply transformations the implementation, does it already like come configured with which transformation it's going to apply? So I'll say you'll need one test for readability parse another for DOM purify, sanitize, and a third for assign lector speak IDs. So how did it do? This looks better. I accidentally named it as a Python file. There we go. And what are the chances that it works? Okay, so we do have this. This is reasonable. It's logging if the test passes, calling process exit if it fails. How about, I'll say this looks great. Can you modify it so that we only, we run all the tests and call exit 1 at the end only if we've ever written to console.error. I don't know if we have that information, or maybe we could just have some bookkeeping. All right, has errors equals false. That's fine. So it's going to just generate this. It'll be a moment. Okay. Maybe this will work. And we'll just call it with, I decided not to use jest. Okay, and it can't find the input files. And it says fails to build. Oh, you know, it's not that it can't find the input test files. I misspelled transformations again, but only once. Okay, so now we get enoent, enoent, no such file or directory, foobar. That's because that's not a real place. And I don't actually remember where this is going to be executed. I don't think that I can. I think it's going to be the full path. But what do I know? Let's see what things look like here. I think that can I do like process that print working directory? It wants me to require a path, which I'm not going to do. I refuse. So I'll just try stripping this this prefix. It still doesn't like that. And you know what? ChatGPT I think messed up my file names. Although that was kind of nice of it. It wasn't what I wanted it to do, but if I don't accept its change now, I'll have to do more work later. So I guess I might as well let it slide. Now I wonder in Dured mode if I can copy. I don't know. Can I not do that? All right, so I can touch them. Oh, what? Hmm. Is it because did I use spaces instead of commas? Well, there's a space, but I don't think that's my problem. Oh, it is my problem. Okay. So that seems to have worked. And where's my build file? Or where's my compilation window? And it does, so the input files are also renamed. Those don't need to have separate names. And if they did, I would not name them like this. I think I just called them input, right? Okay, and now there is a real problem, and I think this might be fixed by removing the prefix. No, it will not. So let's figure out which directory we're in. I don't know. Do I have access to a window in EndNode? I don't really know. Window is not defined. Why can't I call something in process? Doesn't it seem like I should be able to? Before exit message. Is this the same process? I can get GID, get groups. I can change directory, report directory. I guess they're saying to change directory to the current directory. No? Okay, so here's the directory. Let's see where we are. Okay, so I think that I have to tell it to sandbox debug. So this does look like I am in the root directory. I go to JS, but now I have I don't seem to have a test files folder. Oh, you know what? I don't have a dependency on the test files. Oopsie. That's definitely my fault. Okay, and now it still doesn't believe in the files, but hopefully they should exist. Okay, so now I do have test files. I don't have an input file. I thought that I did. Did I delete it by accident when I was monkeying around? Or is it just called something else? I must have deleted it. Okay, and now I can't. All right, so now it's actually testing the code. So that's great progress. I haven't included, or rather required, JS DOM in the transformations library. Oh wait, this is still a test. Where's the library? This does require JS. Require JS DOM. It does create window. So what is it that doesn't have JS DOM? Is it because I haven't made a rule for the transformations one? No, I have. It seems like transformations test is trying to do some JS DOM stuff. Didn't I tell it not to? Oh, I guess I see. Because I have to wrap essentially the HTML in this JS DOM thingy. So let's have them all take a DOM argument. I don't have buildifier anymore. I'll have to rectify that later. Okay, so I can't find the this library. I don't know if this is something I can add to depths. Oh, well, hang on. First of all, that's not how you do it. Let's try depth. Let's try to see if depths is a thing. All right, so it's saying that it can't find this transformations thing. There is no depths in the in a Node.js test, and I don't know, and I can't import it with outside of a module. Possibly, what I need to do is create an actual module, which honestly I have no idea how to do. But I also can check out what the the rules Node.js source code is doing. So they have this Node.js thing and an entry point and some configuration environment variables. And they have tests that depend on JSON. And here it looks like they're actually depending on a library. Internal node test lib1. And it's being passed as data. Oh, this is ugly. Okay, that is super ugly. So they have to have, it has to be given this, it can't, it seems like it's not able to just use Bazel. You have to have this hideous hybrid with the Node.js package system. That's certainly unpleasant. Is this the only way? This has what? So lib2 has exports.a is equal to lib2 content, but it doesn't seem to have a package file, although here we do. Yeah, okay. Well, that's unsettling. Is there anything else we can do? Where did the build file go? If you want to compile libraries in isolation, use a compile to JS rule like TS library. I guess like JS library. Otherwise, if you want to publish a package, use use npm package. So maybe it doesn't want it to be a library. It just wants it to be like a dep file. But then how do I access its methods? Okay, I think I managed to successfully include, or rather require, my library by telling the test that it was Node.js and just using require. Oh, sorry, rather by telling the Node.js test thing that it was data rather than a dependency. And now I'm getting like syntax issues from the ChatGPT generated code. So now there's this syntax error, but it seems like something is broken because it would be nice if I could click on this error and go to the place in the file, but it does not seem to work. So I'll have to, like a caveman, go to the file directory. Okay, so where's the syntax issue? It's on line something or other. 56. It's not, that was an error I introduced, I think. Okay, so readability parse is not defined. So I don't know, maybe maybe I can just do this. No. So first of all, let me make sure I'm not misspelling it again. Second of all, what can I even do? Do I need to export them? I don't know if that's valid syntax. I think my life is generally going to be easier if I do, if I use the newer module syntax. I don't know if there's a downside. Like everything might, like there might be some thorny edge case. But let's try it. I don't know if it's going to undefined 9. Isn't that what I'm supposed to do? Type module? Do I need a comma? Maybe it goes here. Maybe it wants a string. So it doesn't like this export token. So if I just module.exports, then it seems that things work. I tried to switch things over to the ES modules, but I can't figure out the configuration in Bazel that will make it pick up the pick up things correctly. Package modules, sorry, type module to the package.json, but Bazel still seems to think it's an old style common JS module, even though even after like cleaning and expunging and removing all the cached information, etc. So I must be missing something there, but I'm not going to really pursue it further right now. And I still don't have linking from the errors to the file, but I can make do without. And here the readability returned null. So I'll have to debug that later. I have to go for now. So after exporting everything correctly, I'm able to make progress on the test. I added some content to the input just so that it has something to operate on. And I see that it adds this readability dash page dash 1 class page, which we saw before. I don't really think that's necessary, but on the other hand, I'm not sure it's necessary to remove it. So why don't I leave it there? I would expect the inner HTML to be about the same as the original document. Or rather, I don't expect readability to remove anything in this test document. And that's one reason it's not a great test. There are many reasons it's not a great test. I just want to get this wired up, as I said, so that I can expand it as needed. It takes some time and effort to set up any testing framework to make sure it's working properly. And then once it's set up, it's relatively easy to add tests. And if I print out the whole window, I see tons of stuff. I guess this is mildly interesting. This is just, I guess, default things that come in the window. But what happens if I print out the whole document? I guess the document isn't really printable. What about just the body? I'm guessing inner HTML is what I'm supposed to be printing out, but I want to just verify. And it also trims it. Yeah. Now, is there an outer HTML? To only obtain the HTML representation of the contents, use inner HTML. Outer HTML is the serialized HTML fragment describing the element, including its descendants. Well, let's see what that looks like. Oh, okay. I guess mainly it includes the body tag. So I don't know what I really want this test to do. As of now, if I make it detect a specific piece of text, piece of HTML, then it's going to fail anytime I change it. And I haven't really tweaked the way that I'm going to call the readability service yet. So I'm not sure if I'm ready to commit to what's essentially a change detection test. In fact, it's literally a change detection test. But there is something at least somewhat invariant here, right? So I can at least test that the first element is a div with the ID of readability page 1 and class equal to page. And I don't want to figure out the... Wait, so what kind of object is it? I'm going to get the DOM back, the transformed DOM. And I mainly have to find, I guess I have to do some sort of selection, like a query selector. I'll have ChatGPT do it. Write a JavaScript function that checks whether given a, what's it called? JS DOM so we're going to test that the first element is a div with ID and class given by this. I get 2 responses. Also, what is auto? I can upgrade to plus. Okay. Also, why is it zoomed in so much? So I'm not sure which one I like better. I guess I kind of like the one on the right. But not by much. Now, it's reasonable to take this piece of code and make it a separate function that you call, but that's going to make it a little bit harder to read the code, and that function is going to be temporary. So I'm just going to put it inline. Which means I have to deal with moving stuff around. Although JavaScript doesn't have significant white space, so it should be able to pretty print or like auto format correctly. It's kind of nice that they split it up between these two error messages, but in this case, I don't really need that. I can just log it here. So let's test the error message. DOM has already been declared. I assume from the changes I just made. Why don't I just move these to the top of the thing file? Yeah, I think that maybe I'm missing a bracket or something here. Now, I was trying to test this error message, and I'm not quite sure that this is the print statement is printing anything. And you know what? I added this all to the wrong method. Let's put that in the scratch pad and just do a bunch of undoing. Although I think I closed this document since then. That's okay. First of all, let's shut down a bunch of these windows. And we can just return DOM purify sanitize to the generated code. I think I had made some changes. For example, this input HTML is not there. Now the DOM is an argument, and this is the new condition. And I think that's it. So it fails. I think I told it to always fail, but is it actually printing anything useful? So it's logging the result HTML. What I wanted to do was change it to log the first element. I'm not sure if first element is something loggable. I am assuming I have to make it into a string. Oh, well, it is a div. That's at least somewhat useful. Okay. So I'm not sure that's legal. I probably have to turn it into a string first. Nope, nope. JavaScript will just do whatever you whatever you tell it to do. Okay. Let's remove these if false statements. We'll move everything to a giant, huge condition. Oh, you know what? It was better before. Okay. My test passes. And I think it really does pass because that's actually a true condition. So I'll take that as a passing test. Now let's test DOM purify. And there's no foo bar. I thought we got rid of foo bar. DOM purify sanitize is not defined. And all we know is that it failed. Well, I think we're comparing it to some expected output that is it doesn't really match anything. I haven't populated that file. But I think the expected output should be the same as the input. What's it? What is it objecting to here? Okay. Down window body is undefined. Let's start by logging the sanitized DOM because I'm not even 100% positive what it's supposed to look like. Okay. So the body is undefined. The window is defined. What's the first element? Undefined. My testing has uncovered the first real bug, I guess, which is that when I'm adding the IDs, I'm adding them to the document element, this HTML tag here. And I don't want that. I'm also adding it to this page div. And I looked at the generated code. And it's because it's grabbing all elements, checking whether the text content is not the empty string, and adding the lector speak ID if it's not the empty string. We can do, I think, much better than that. We shouldn't. For example, I don't know why it's adding it to the section. I'm not sure why section has text content. And yeah, I'm actually not sure why a lot of these do. So let's see what we can see. I guess the easiest thing to do is just log the text content here. So we have this object, HTML element. And then where's an example of a section? Oh, okay, so we have this HTML list. That's easy. HTML element. I think this is probably the section. And its its text content is really the content of its children, which is not what I want. The text content property sets or returns the text content of the specified node and all its descendants. I think what I want is maybe inner text. So for one, I think that inner text is not generally defined. So now this is even crazier. Or is it the same? Why does the body have inner text? Oh, I'm logging. The wrong thing. So body undefined, title element undefined, paragraph undefined. All right, maybe inner text doesn't do what I thought it did. Get the inner text of the element. The return value is the text content of the element and all descendants. Okay, so this seems like a pretty good solution. We check the no. So we have this outer loop where we get all of the elements, and for each element we look at its child nodes, and for each child, which we're calling node here, we look at its node type. If it's a text node, then we check that its content is not the empty string. And if those conditions are all true, then we add the lector speak notation. And you can see from the output here now, lector speaks 0 starts at the title, which is the goal. And we don't seem to be adding the lector speak tag to anything that's not actually text. So I'm going to consider this the golden file and compare and use it as the comparison in the unit test. I don't love that this is a double for loop, but I don't think that there are. I feel like it's necessary. Let's do this test again. I meant to log the node type. So everything is, all of the elements returned from this query have node type 1. So I guess I think, or at least I think I need to look, definitely. I think it is true that I need to look at their children. That's what I'm trying to say. It's late here. Okay, so that's that. So this test is still failing. I'm not sure that's unexpected. Let's look at the test again. So first of all, we should not be looking at the document HTML. We should be looking at the document element, outer HTML. That's step one. Step two, let's take a look at what the expected output HTML looks like. So the first thing that's logged is the expected output, and the second thing that's logged is what we get back. And so how are these different? They look more or less the same. They might differ by the trim. So let's just grab these both and diff them up. There might be some white space. Hey. Meld tells me that the files are identical. Am I telling it to always fail the test? No. Am I using too aggressive an equality operation? Maybe I can ask for the first the first index where they diverge. I'm not writing a function for this. How about can I index into a string? How about JavaScript substring? String prototype substring. Okay. Is it because I have a new line? No. So the first 100 characters seem fine. How many characters is this file anyway? "806 characters." And there's I guess, a difference in the first 200. Let's verify that 100 still passes. Maybe I hallucinated that. Okay. How about 150? So somewhere between 150 and 190, they claim there's a difference. I don't know how to jump to character. Go to car. Okay, so somewhere between like the middle of the title in this paragraph before the closing of the paragraph element, the end of the tag. That doesn't seem so likely. Is it something about the encoding or the new line? There's a new line here, but it's after the. This is the first one after I rewrote lecture speak. And when I log them, they become identical. What about when I stringify them? I thought JSON string file was a function. Am I spelling it wrong? Oh, stingify is not a function. Okay, so these now, this is looking more promising. I have /n/t's here. And I also have those below. So I have this /n and a gap here, which I have below as well. Here I have two /n's right next to each other. And here I have /n and then a space and /n. Which one is right? I feel like the bottom one is right, that the two new lines should be right next to each other. And the bottom one is the output file. So why is that? Maybe my input file has crazy new lines. Doesn't really seem to be the input file. Is it just the call to trim? Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to have to be bothered with this sort of thing. So what are my options? I guess I can just write it to a file, and it should preserve all the new lines and stuff. Somewhere I have code that writes to a file, I think. Maybe not. It did not seem to work. Oh, first of all, I put this in the wrong place. Oh, I guess I'm writing. A trim doesn't return the. Is that right? What's going on here? So I thought I was trying to write result HTML. I don't know why we're not getting to either of these. And we don't seem to have any errors. Oh, maybe because it's uh, writing, trying to write asynchronously, and I just don't wait for a promise. Am I missing a... Okay, so this goes inside a try block. I don't know why it's just failing silently. There we go. Now we're at least doing something. Instead of silently failing. All right, all right. Okay, so after all that, it still doesn't like that it still thinks that they are not the same. So I took the result, the actual result we get back, and I wrote it to a file. But after that, it changed the ordering of the new lines somehow. Well, maybe I don't need this test to be so thorough. I can maybe uh, improve it once I learn a little bit about JavaScript. But what I can do is at least test that the first lector speak ID is on the title. What is the title called? Yeah. document.title. Okay. So that's the title, but does it not have maybe title element? I could do this the other way and call get element by ID. And then I don't know. I don't know what to test about it. I don't think it's node type. It's definitely not node type. Does it have a name? Node name, perhaps? Okay, there we go. So we'll just check if title ID.node name is the literal string title. And of course, title ID is now a terrible name for this variable. Oops. So we'll rename it. Great. It passes. And so now I think all of the tests pass, which is worth making a git commit. I guess if I want to do a relatively clean commit, I should remove the hello world thing. Or no, I'll just ignore it. I'll say smoke tests for JavaScript transformation logic. I wonder if the changes, I think the changes to the run script thing were from Basil Buildifier. I was confused about where they came from. Okay, that's fine. It's fair game to run Basil Buildifier. Although what's changed in hello? We don't want these. Okay, so I pushed that to Garrett in the other window. I should go to bed, but the next thing I want to do is I want to call JavaScript from the Haskell thing that's fetching. That's actually fetching the documents. And there's a bit in the middle, which is kind of slipping my mind right now, that a bit more processing. But I'll have to remember what that is tomorrow, I think. Oh, yeah, it's splitting up the paragraphs. So I'll think about that tomorrow.